Hi, and welcome to our series of tutorial videos for POSitouch users. The first thing we'll be looking at is how to organize your menu. We'll be dividing this into basic menu programming for the traditional POSitouch menu and advanced menu programming. To begin with, let's look at how the menu appears on our front screens. When we go to our menu screen, we can see that by pressing a button it brings up our first set of modifiers, called must-selects, because they are required before making any other choices. The next set of modifiers are referred to as may-selects. These options may be ignored entirely, but should represent the most common modifications to our order. Now let's look at how we make all this happen. From our Navigator home screen, we'll open the menu editor. For this lesson, we'll be adding an item to an existing menu. First, we'll select Edit an Order screen. Most databases will contain more than the screens you see here, of course, but no matter how many screens you're using, menu building will work the same way. Now, let's say we have to add a new sandwich to our Burgers and Sandwiches screen. We'll simply click on that screen. We previously rang up a cheeseburger on our terminal, so let's take a moment to see how that worked before we make our own. You see that the whole screen is laid out in a grid. If you're familiar with Microsoft Excel, this should look very familiar. We have a total of 55 numbered boxes that represent where we can place an item. Depending on the size of the button, we can use up to 4 boxes for a single item. In the upper right, you'll see that the currently selected cell number is shown. Later, we'll discuss the options to organize the placement, but for now, let's look at the item we rang up out front, the cheeseburger. When I click on it, the screen cell window comes up. Let's look at the important features. The inventory number is displayed in the upper left and is simply the number assigned to the item cheeseburger in the database. The cell type refers to how the item will behave. Is it a main item? Do we want to include tax? Is it an option? We'll get more into that part later. For now, we can see that as a cell type 1 primary item taxed. This means that tax is applied on top of the base price of the cheeseburger. Below that is the swatch size. By changing the swatch size, we simply change the size of the button from a single cell to 4 cells. If I change the size of our cheeseburger button, you can see how it would appear on the terminal. From single high, single wide, double high, single wide, single high, double wide, and double high, double wide. The color option refers to the color of the button, and we always encourage you to make your menu attractive as well as functional. Many like to group foods by color. Steaks are all red, fish are all blue, for example. Below the color, you'll see the prep category window. This tells the item where to print. We'll cover prep routing in a later lesson, but for now, we'll just accept that we can print to one of 3 places: a hot food printer, a cold food printer, and the bar. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see that we have a window that shows the options we saw in our terminal previously. The must-selects are always listed on top, and the may-selects are listed beneath. To the right, you see that we have the option to add, edit, and delete our options. We'll get to that. Let's go add our sandwich first, so I'm going to select Exit, and then I'm going to select an unused box. Let's use number 32. We're back to the screen cell options, but there's no inventory number or description, and everything else is at its default setting. We'll add a Reuben sandwich. The next steps aren't the most intuitive, so this may take a couple of times to become familiar to you. We'll first select Lookup from the top of the screen. This is the menu item screen for item number 100. We certainly don't want to use that, we want to add a Reuben. So now we'll select Add Record from the top of the screen to add our new item to the inventory. A window pops up suggesting an item number for us. It will always default to the next available number in the database. If we choose, we can group similar items into a number range, like numbering all our appetizers from 1000 to 1200. We can use any number in the database between 1 and 4999, as long as it's not already in use. For now, we'll use the number provided by the database, 135, and click OK. This screen looks similar to our screen cell options, but this one is different. This is the menu item screen, where we tell the system the critical information about an item. The description is the name of the item as it will appear on the reports. You'll notice that the prices are divided into Price 1, Price 2, and Price 3. These will be addressed more in advanced menu training. The major and minor categories are again for reporting purposes and are used to organize your reports into distinct categories. For our purposes, all you need to know is that the major and minor categories need to be assigned. We can always edit later. To the right, you see two rows of boxes that are used to define which discounts may be applied to this item. If you click the discount button above, you'll see a display of all the discounts defined in the database. Below the discount boxes, you'll find the tax eligibility, which is just another way of asking which taxes apply to the item. For our purposes, that's all we need to know about the item screen. Now we'll enter a description, which is simply the name of the item. In this case, Reuben sandwich. Now we'll add our prices. We'll say the sandwich is $8. A little trick, if I add the price in Price 1 and hit the Tab button, POSitouch will automatically fill in the other prices. Next, we'll pick our major and minor categories using the drop-down box. We'll select sandwiches as our major category and hot sandwiches for our minor category. We'll allow all discounts on the right, so we won't change any of that, and we'll leave Tax 1 applied, which is generally our sales tax. In our advanced menu lesson, we'll look at where to change that along with the major and minor categories. Now we select Save in the upper right of the window to add it to the database. We then hit the Select button to choose this item for our screen cell. You'll see that the item number, description, prices, and major and minor categories have all been automatically added. Reuben sandwich may be a bit too long for the button we're making, so let's delete the sandwich part of it. When we do that, it doesn't change the name of the item in the database, so it will still appear as Reuben sandwich on our reports, but on the terminals and the kitchen printout, it will show up as simply Reuben. Our cell type is fine, as we want to add tax on top of the $8. For liquor, beer, and mixed drinks, many prefer cell type 6, tax included. If we chose that for our Reuben, our total price would be $8, with the taxes automatically calculated and the tax subtracted from that $8. Because the empty cell we chose has items to its left and right, we'll pick double high, single wide from the drop-down box for the size, and we'll make the button green from the color drop-down. Let's click on Save to save our progress and see what it looks like. If we ran an immediate system change, the button would now appear on our burgers and sandwiches screen like this. Let's click on our Reuben again and add some options. To start with, we'll borrow some options from the other sandwiches on the screen. We'll select Copy from the right of our Options panel, and we'll see the other items on the screen. Let's steal the options from the hamburger by clicking on the box next to the hamburger item and clicking OK. Now we see all the options for the hamburger. We don't need a temperature on the Reuben, so we can get rid of the must selects entirely. We'll highlight the top line of the options by clicking on it, then select Delete to the right of the Options panel. All that's left are the may selects, represented here by the word multi to the left. We'll get into that in a second. For now, let's see what options are included. We'll highlight the remaining line and select Edit to the right. From here, we see two primary options. In the upper left, you'll see a drop-down window to select the option type. We're only concerned with two at the moment. Must selects, like our temperatures that are required choices, and may select multiples. This means that we can select as many of these modifiers as we like, or none at all. To the right of the option type window is the screen window. Because this is a test database, you'll see that we only have a couple of screens, and one is titled Sandwich Mods, which is the screen we're looking at. Bigger databases may have many option screens for all our items. To customize our Reuben options, we'll deselect the lettuce, mayo, and ketchup by clicking on the flags to the left and click OK. Doesn't leave us with much in the way of customization, does it? For a Reuben, we'll need something more specific, so we're going to add a modifier. We'll click Save again to save our progress, which returns us to the order screen. Then we'll click Exit to see our list of screens. Let's now click on Sandwich Mods to add our new modifier. You'll probably notice right away that all the names of our buttons have an asterisk in the lower right. Also, all our items are the same size here, single high, single wide. We want to keep our buttons small here to allow for multiple options to be presented in a clear way. The asterisk, well, let's jump right into that part. To create a new option, we'll begin just like creating a new item. We'll click on an empty box, cell 19 will do fine, and click Lookup at the top of the screen cell window. Just like with creating an item, we'll select Add Record and accept the number provided by the software by clicking OK. Knowing that a Reuben comes with dressing, and knowing some people will want to remove that, let's add that option. We'll fill in dressing for the description and leave the price blank since we're not charging to remove it. Next, we'll select the major and minor categories from the drop-downs. sandwiches for our major, then sandwich mods for our minor category. Next, we'll click on Save and then select to attach it to the screen cell we first clicked on. Two notes here. First, and most importantly, is the cell type. All options that you want to attach to your menu items must be a screen cell type 4 for option. If you forget this step and save it as a cell type 1, you'll see that it doesn't have that asterisk that the other options do. Also, you'll notice that if I go back to our burgers and sandwich screen, click on Reuben and try to edit the May selects, the dressing is unavailable for selection. The point is, you can't make a main item a modifier of another main item. If I return to our modifier screen, we'll find another pitfall. If I've previously saved this as a main item and click on dressing again, you'll notice that the cell type dropdown doesn't allow you to change it to cell type 4 option. If you make this mistake, and you will, just click on the dressing button and make note of the inventory number. Then select delete in the lower left. It will ask you to confirm the deletion. Click yes, and now click on the empty cell again. Since we've already created the item, all we have to do is enter the inventory number and ensure we select the proper cell type. Click Save again, and when we return to the modifier screen, you'll see the asterisk indicating that the cell is now a modifier. One final note on modifiers. You'll notice I've made some of them green. If I click on the one for Add Swiss, you'll notice I've chosen green from the cell color drop-down and added a $sign at the beginning and end of the description. You'll also see that the price fields are filled in. When I created this modifier, rather than leave the price fields blank, I added a price. I also used the color and $signs to create visual cues that alert the person ordering that an additional cost will be incurred by adding this modifier. Let's return now to our burgers and sandwiches screen and click on our Reuben button. Now I'll highlight the May selects in the options panel and click Add. On the options screen, I'll select our modifier screen and select dressing and the Add Cheese buttons. I can select the entire column by clicking on the number at the top of the screen. I can also deselect them the same way. Now I'll click OK and save. We'll exit out of our menu screens, run an immediate system change to update the system, and when I go to the terminal, this is what I'll see. Our May selects are grouped together, even though we had two lines in the options panel. Any May select you add will be added to a single May select list, in the order they appear on the screen. If you're using multiple screens to draw your options from, they will be arranged on the screen by the screen number, so you can literally add a modifier from 20 different screens if you chose to. In the next lesson, we'll explore how to change taxes, major and minor categories, and more advanced features of organizing your menu.